All right. Hello, everyone. We are back with our fourth episode of the member stories brought to you. Oh, and there's my sound. I did not turn it down. Sorry about that. And we have today with us Claire Randall from Spy Squad HQ. And she has been a member of our group for a while now. And she has a very interesting story that I'm excited for her to share with you today. So, Claire, why don't you give everyone a little bit of your background, your family dynamic, as you would say?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Great to be here. And thank you for organising this, Ariana. It's really exciting. I'm a little nervous, but it's going to be good. Okay, family dynamics. Let's start with that first. So we're a multi-generational home. So my husband owns the house with his mum, and we have two children. So there's three generations of us. I have a son who is 9 called Max, and my daughter Ellie is 5. Both completely different. Max is quite sensitive. Ellie's a fearless thing. So that's the family dynamics. My background, up until I was in my early 30s, I was a travel agent. I'd done a few different jobs before getting into travel. I'd been a real estate, as you call it. So we call them estate agents over here in the UK. I did that for a couple of years, which I really liked. But the market had a bit of a dip and the work went down to part-time. So that's how I got into travel. And I loved selling holidays. I hated the sales because the kind of nature of the beast over here is you have to lie or elaborate on the truth, which really didn't sit ethically very well with me. I'm more about giving a really good service and knowing that people will trust that and come back to me. So I did that till I was on maternity leave with Max, and then I was made redundant from the job that I was doing. I was working from home selling holidays. Then I set up a bridal shop. I had that for about 18 months. And I used to sell swimwear and did honeymoons and stuff. So it was called Brides and Bikinis. So it was kind of like the whole shebang.
Nice.
I hated it. Absolutely hated it. And I'm a romantic. I mean, I got into it by chance, really. But thought it would be me, but no. Bridezillas, no. Didn't fit with me. And then actually me and my I kind of had a reevaluation. You know, Max was about 18 months at the time, and I kind of felt that life needed to be looked at differently. I didn't have a brilliant childhood, and there were some negative patterns and issues that I had that I didn't have any confidence. I mean, I left school with very low grades. I didn't realise that I could be an academic. I was always a practical person. Show me and I can do it. Anyway, I did this introduction to NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming course. I did a 10-week course, and it just completely shattered everything I thought I knew about myself, about the world. And I thought maybe I can do more. And I'd always been interested in doing counselling and psychotherapy. I've always been very sort of empathic and felt kind of beneath people's exteriors to what might be going on, but didn't think that I was qualified enough because of the grades from school. But I enrolled on a course and worked my way up all through the different levels that we have to do. And then when I got to doing my 2-year professional diploma, I decided to do a degree at the same time. So in the daytime, I was at university doing my degree. Once a week at night classes, I was doing my professional diploma and then seeing clients. And then I fell pregnant with Ellie. So it was really quite intense work.
It sounds like it. Ashley Grant says she thinks neurolinguistic programming is so cool, and that you went that route.
Yes, I've been recommended it by a friend.
Okay, I've heard a couple other people mention it lately too. So it's funny that I'm interviewing you today and that you actually did go that route with neurolinguistic programming. It's so cool.
Yes.
And then, so how did you get from the counseling route to your Spy Squad HQ?
Well, that's an interesting story. So I don't qualified. I mean, I've only been qualified, I suppose, 5 years as a therapist, and I did it for a couple of years. So I worked at my local college doing counselling for students, and I worked at Relate, which over here is sort of marriage and couples therapy.
Okay.
And I had some private as well. And then my son sadly had a lot of bullying at school. He was only 7 at the time, and it had been going on for just about a year and a half. And it was a little boy in his circle of friends and his older brother who might have had slight special needs, but he was very aggressive towards Max. And Max had been pinned by the and pushed off benches, and he'd have episodes of just being too terrified to go to school, and he would run and hide. And being a therapist, I knew that he was always going to be triggered. You know, neurologically, the pathways in our brain, the more you use them, the stronger they are. So the more he's scared, he's, going to remain like that. So I decided to home educate him for a year, which is not as popular in the UK as it is in America. And it was met with a lot of resistance from family and friends, people thinking that we're going to screw his life up and that it's wrong. But I researched it a lot, and I knew that it was right. I knew it was right for Max. So I had him home for 9 months.
How was that transition for you, going from having him in school to then having him home all the time? And when did the business part of that, like when did your business start? Was it during when he was home and you were homeschooling him, or was that after?
No, that was after. So the private clients that I had naturally were coming to the end of their kind of sessions that they needed. And I'd stopped working at the college late. So I was at home. My husband is also, we've got a small family roofing business. We lost our original one when the recession hit, but he just recently started working for himself at the same kind of time. So there was a natural transition to manage his business and support Max. It was actually really lovely. It was nice not having to get up and do school runs or homework. He just evolved and came out of himself and was free and relaxed and calm. And that was just priceless. It was hard. It was hard finding the right way to support him with his learning. Do we do fully structured, which he was very resistant of? Do we do unschooling and just follow his passions? You know, there's so many different ways you could homeschool, which again I had to learn. And after the boys, he also had an issue with one of his teacher who said to him that his work was atrocious and that I would be shocked if I homeschooled him, which just was appalling. And that was the crunch moment. So not only did he have issues with peers, but he also then had this concept that his work wasn't good enough, so he wouldn't engage. It was very hard. He loved watching nature programs and travel programs and you know, listening and reading, but actually to sit, practice his writing and things like that, he really didn't want to. So I decided to hide his learning in covert missions and set up a spy school. And I was a member of Facebook home ed groups. So I offered it to some other families. Does anybody want to take part? And I had over 40 in 7 different countries around the world. And Max loved it, you know, because we'd have all the children would be emailing us. We had like Mexico and Bahrain and Australia, South Africa. It was amazing. And people kept offering to pay. Oh, how much is it? How much do I owe you? This is great. And I'm like, no, don't be silly. I'm just a mum. I'm not a teacher. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm throwing a load together. Very basic, you know, maybe one picture because I was aware people are printing it at home. Yeah, so we did that and it was good. And then in the September, which is when our terms start, Max decided that he was ready, that he wanted to try school again, which I really struggled with because I didn't feel he was ready. And I think I wasn't ready. I'd really got used to having him around and it being really nice, a different way of life and a different way of looking at things. So when he went back to school, I thought to start building clients again in counselling is hard, and then it doesn't necessarily fit with my husband's business and school times, and Ellie was then coming to, you know, starting her schooling. So I thought maybe there was a business with the spy school. Maybe I could
Mm-hmm.
maybe just sell little lessons like on Teachers Pay Teachers or something. And I started looking into it. And I thought maybe I'll do an online course, where they can come in and they can learn the stuff. And I was trying to find an app or something that would work with my website, couldn't. And then I
Mm-hmm.
stumbled across a YouTube video about the subscription box market.
Ah.
And it was literally like I struck with lightning. I can send spy gadgets. I can do this. I can do this. With all of these creative ideas. And yeah, it was like I was connected to something bigger than me. And it's just gone from there. So I've been working on it for 18 months. And it's evolved. So initially it's just skills based, but now I've actually written a mystery adventure story with it as well. So then they use the skills like to solve clues and things.
So that is probably one of the most interesting and like so many parts to it of the journeys that I've heard so far. And how has that been for you? I mean, you're transitioning through all of these different roles. You went from, where you started to now you went through the neuro-linguistic programming and you're a counselor. And then you went into not only were you a mom, but then you were a homeschooling mom and you were supporting your spouse and being an entrepreneur. And now you're your own entrepreneur and just so many emotions and so many different role changes in your journey. How has that been for you, kind of like moving through that?
The biggest change was actually becoming a therapist.
Mm.
I did 2 years of personal therapy, and it was amazing, and it completely changed my life. And I have a different wisdom and awareness and way of looking at the world that I wouldn't have had before. So I think I can cope with differences now that I probably wouldn't have before, because I'm not reactive. I can take time and respond, which is I mean, I don't always do it. I still have bad habits and triggers that leak. But yeah, so I think it's just a day-to-day thing, it's not fully evolved yet and there are still challenges, but I do a lot of personal development work that I stick to. One thing I noticed when I stopped seeing clients, because I've changed so much, but nobody else has gone on that journey, and it's a massive difference. And I can't even put into words the difference of who I was before to who I am now. People don't always respond well if they haven't gone on a similar kind of journey, and that can be challenging in itself. And then the dynamics of the relationships where I might be able to stay centered and respond differently, that then, like for instance, putting in healthy boundaries is met with resistance. And the arguments where people try to then come at you at a different angle, that I think has been the biggest challenge, as opposed to me dealing with different businesses and everything. I love it. I'm a lover of life, and I will just grab hold and run with it. I'm a problem solver. Give me a problem and there's always an answer. Always. I know there is. Well, and that's been the hardest.
You brought up a great point there. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that as an entrepreneur, and I think seeing a lot of entrepreneurs, that's something that we forget, because we have traveled our own journey and we know where we were and we see where we are. But when we have people in our life that maybe we don't feel they're as supportive, or they just don't understand what we're doing, and we don't want them in our lives, sometimes you got to kind of take that step back and think about it like that. Well, those people haven't traveled our journey, so it doesn't matter how well we try to explain it and how much we try to show them. Sometimes they just need to have, they need to travel their own journey or follow their own path to get to where we are. And you can't force that. And I think that's huge. I mean, that's very similar to Tom and I's story, with him continually trying to get me, to agree to becoming an entrepreneur, when for me, I needed to know the reasoning behind it more so. And why is it important to you? so that I can see why it's important to me, not,
Yes.
all of those front reasons that people like to say, oh, I want more freedom, I want more time, I want more this. It was more of the underlying emotional reasons and, really inspirational reasons that I needed to connect to in order to understand
Yes.
his journey. And that's something that's so easy for us to forget because we've already traveled it and we're already where we are now. You've got to think like, oh, my parents don't understand this because they haven't been here. They didn't have this journey in their lifetime. So it's going to take them a bit longer to kind of catch up and find out why. And they might never do that.
That is exactly it. The Industrial Revolution and the Industrial Age, for 100 years, we've been taught to follow rules, jump to a bell, so that we can work for other people. Mm-hmm. And it isn't needed as much anymore. There's so much automation with machinery and, technology. It's a very new way of being able to be self-sufficient. And I think the older generations, they struggle with that because it wasn't anything like that, was it? For their generation, it was completely different. So that's, I get that.
So throughout that journey, I know you had some really, some low points and then also some really amazing happy moments. What would you say was your, I guess, lowest point or a biggest failure that you had while you were kind of going along in this journey to where you are now?
I don't think I've had any. I think my failures came before I went into therapy training. Not so far. Not since doing my therapy training. Because NLP, I'd have to come back to this. The biggest thing that I took from it is there is no such thing as failure, only feedback. And it's so right.
That is huge.
And I think because problem solver, because I naturally am a problem solver. It isn't about it failing. It's okay, that didn't work. What else will? So it maybe that doesn't kind of fit with me and how I view things anyway. I think it's been hard. The marketing side. I haven't done any marketing because I'm still writing and creating. Mm-hmm. So I've got 7 customers, which to the family, it's like I'm not successful and I'm not doing very well. To me, 7 customers that absolutely adore what I'm doing is brilliant, and it's manageable at the moment to, have a team and things like that. And I have just taken a couple of partners. So there are areas where I need to improve, and time, not having a feeling like I don't have enough time. Because I'm a creative type, I'm very unorganized. And I struggle. I still have resistance and fears about getting things wrong. Okay, if I don't do that, what's going to be the consequence? So it might take me a little bit longer to think of the steps. Okay, if that does happen, that's my next solution, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
I'm a little bit of an over sometimes.
Guilty.
But no, I don't feel it's a negative. It's just
I like that though. Your quote is something that I feel like I need to say back to myself in my head is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And I know that Tom is going to absolutely love that because he's huge on his one of his favorite sayings is fail fast and fail often, because that's the fastest way to learn and get yourself to where you need to be. So I think that's a good one. And then, so what would you say on the flip side has been your happiest moment then?
There's 2.
All right, you can have
one.
The
first was there's 2. I have 2. The first was stumbling across the subscription box and it being, oh my God, this is just going to be amazing.
An aha moment.
Because the whole point of it is that aha moment. Because the whole reason why I wanted to take it to a business is so that I can use my skills as a therapist as kind of like early intervention to help educate children on emotional intelligence, on self-care, on the connectedness of things, like a holistic kind of way, but from a fun angle, because kids learn much better when it's like that. So that aha moment was one.
And you have Ashley Grant wanting an adult spy box, by the way.
Yes, it's under that boiler, but yes. It's on the list of to do eventually.
Yay!
Now, the other thing I'm afraid is classified and top secret, and I can't say because I've signed something to say that I'm not allowed to. But it does to do with media of things that we view, and that's all I'm going to say. So there might be some exciting thing in the pipeline. It's all kind of being talked about at the moment with
the anticipation.
And, yeah. That's pretty stressful, but also very could be potentially really good.
That's usually how it goes. The biggest things in our lives end up being some of the most stressful. That's the norm. Yes. But I mean, I just love hearing your story has been, I mean, everyone's story is different, but I just love hearing the different aspects of different people's story. Like I asked you the question, what's been your lowest point? And the fact that you said nothing is just so amazing to me because, I mean, being an entrepreneur is hard and doing this stuff is hard. But the fact that you don't see any part of your journey as being a low point or a failure for yourself is just so inspiring, I think, for a lot of people that are kind of scared to take that step. And it's kind of showing everyone that you do things your own way and you do what works for you, and you don't have to have these huge roadblocks and these huge moments where you feel like a complete failure. You can do it at your own pace, and you can do it in a way that makes you happy and makes you enjoy what you're doing. So I just love the different dynamics of the stories that we've been able to hear so far. So thank you for sharing it with us.
But you're right. I think we're conditioned for there to be an urgency for everything. Mm-hmm. That's how we're wired now. That's how society has been. And I think it's made even harder and emphasized more with social media.
Yep.
And technology, how everything has evolved in the last sort of 10 years. It has just gone at lightning speed. And you can't focus and you can't work through anything at that pace because your brain cannot function. It cannot process, it cannot assimilate all of the changes and the wisdoms and the learnings that's occurring. It needs to be done from a slower pace. And it's just being able to come to that place to trust that process. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the other things I took away from my own personal therapy. My therapist used to keep saying to me, Claire, just trust the process. Right. And she was so right.
Yeah, I love that. We all have to go at our own pace. And I think that's one of the toughest things that's been for me so far is that Tom has been in the entrepreneurial space for years. And he's been doing all of this personal development and learning all of these things for so long that a lot of times to him things come second nature. And I've only been in it a couple of years. I've run our brick and mortar businesses since we have kind of started those, but the online world is a completely different ball game. And in my head, I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, I should be so much further ahead. Like I have all this experience behind me, and I've run our other businesses, and I feel so behind that I'm constantly like trying to catch up. And then I don't remember if I was talking to somebody or it was when I was reading a post or something, but all of a sudden I had like the light bulb click on. I'm like, the reason I feel so behind all the time is because I haven't had years and years and years of learning about all this stuff. And I haven't had years and years and years of personal development. I never did any personal development until we got into the online business world. And now it's a thing. So I'm like, oh, okay, I should probably do some of that. And just getting started into talking to one of our lovely members, Heather Gray, who is amazing at mindset, reading different books, reading articles, finding my people online and having a safe space to discuss things. I never did that before. So, a lot of us, I think, get that. It's almost the, you're watching everyone else and you think that you should be so much further ahead than you are. And it cripples you, and it cripples your personality, and it cripples your work ethic because you kind of lose all that motivation when you feel behind. When in reality, you're not really behind. Those people all started light years ahead of you, and you're just going along at your own pace. So it started to help me feel less bad about not being where I want to be, because I'm like, well, it's not possible to be where I want to be this quickly. It just doesn't happen that fast. So I need to take it slow and take a step back and go my own pace with things.
I think it's. Give me one minute. I'm just moving.
Ashley says, like Disney, I want a fast pass. Yeah, there's no fast passes in entrepreneurship.
But why do you need?
I don't think we need a fast pass. We think we need a fast pass.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's what fears underneath that. What are you imposing on yourself? Like for me, for doing video, it's over, and I can do it all day, every day. I love it because I'm in character. Because I can, when I struggle, I hate it because there's just like a disconnect. But that's kind of my stuff, and it's looking underneath that. I think sometimes, and giving ourselves a.
Uh-oh, I think our sound is breaking up.
Is it?
Can everyone hear us okay? Are we good? All right, I can hear you, so hopefully everyone else can hear you as well.
It's breaking up a little bit. I'm just.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Sorry.
Oh, she says it's missing bits and pieces of Claire. Our sound, we're missing bits and pieces of you, Claire.
Is that better?
Yes. Okay. Hopefully everyone can hear you. But yes, so I mean, I think that's part of what it is. We all want that fast pass, and that's not the way it works. And even for the people that say that they made it that quickly, you don't ever see the backstory and the behind the scenes, and it may look like they had a fast pass, but they've been waiting in line for months ahead of time to get where they are.
Look, like, where are they in the future? You know, I love it when you come on and you share posts about like adverts and stuff, these sponsored links. I made 7 figures. So after that, if it's so quick, is it so quick? Because it isn't something that can be rushed always, because this is time to really learn it, for it to really be part of your body, you know, your everything, your body. It can just be like that. It has to be healthy pace.
Yeah. All right. Anyway. It's saying our sound is breaking up again. So, and we're nearing the end of our time with the lovely Claire. So, I want you to tell us where we can find you. I'm sure everyone is going to want to know more about your Spy Squad. And if you have, if you want to share your website and your Facebook page, and then we can go back and link to those in the comments so people can find you a little easier.
So the website, it's facebook.com for page.
And Ashley is ahead of the game on here. She already found you and shared your website. So thank you, Ashley. So I'll put that up on the screen so everyone can see it. And we will go back and link back to that. If you are watching the replay, I can't wait for you to see some of the aha moments that we've had and some of the things we talked about on this interview, because Claire is such a breath of fresh air. I love your perspective on things, and I just love having you in the group with us and having you pop in. You're always so cheerful and happy and supportive of all of your members. So it's been great to have you join us. I'm so happy we could do the interview, even though our sound has been kind of kicking in and out. But if there's anything else you want to say before we jump off, I'll open up the floor to you.
With it with both hands, and know that if you want, really, I did beautiful.
All right, and thank you so much. Hopefully everyone caught that. If not, we will go back and type it in the places that we are missing some sound. Claire, thank you for joining me today, and I can't wait to have you on at some point in the future when we hear about your big, super secret, top secret news. All right, goodbye, everyone.